What does Russia have to gain by sending all these troops to the Ukrainian border right now?
Yeah, that's really the key question. And what you're pointing to is, what's the dynamic here? Why is this happening? What is the mindset of Putin and the military there in Russia? That's really the key question, because you have to understand that dynamic. And really what it is, probably the easiest way to put this is Putin has been upset, has been angry, has been frustrated ever since really the fall of the Soviet Union. And he's made public statements in the past about his desire, and he's serious, to rebuild in some form the former Soviet Union. So the idea that the Ukraine might be embraced by NATO, join NATO, right there on the border with Russia, is as much of a flashpoint for Putin as the issue of Taiwan is for Xi and the Chinese regime.
As our reporter was mentioning, the troops have not drawn back from the border there, leading me to wonder, Mike, what does the Ukrainian army look like compared to the Russian army?
Well, the Ukrainian army is on paper, it looks good. It's actually, sizable. It's larger to some degree than the Russian buildup and the Russian army. The problem is that the Russian military is well resourced. It's, if you just say, what's a conflict look like if it's simply between Ukraine and Russia, at the end of the day, I don't know any military strategists that are going to say the Ukraine would win that outcome. The dynamic changes, of course, when you add NATO, possibly the U.S. But again, the idea that the U.S. would be pulled into a military conflict, or the NATO wants or has the stomach for a military conflict, is very, very unlikely. The real scenario here is that Putin is probably playing the big bluff. In other words, he's got his cards, he's putting them all on the table by saying, I don't want NATO I don't want the Ukraine in NATO. And therefore, this is what could happen. Not that he's going to do it, but he's basically waiting for the other side to blink.
You say the NATO or U.S. Reaction and involvement might be unlikely in this instance here, but realistically, what could we be talking about if worst case scenario ended up playing out? And then really, is there even an appetite from the United States to really get involved?
Well, I think the answer is no. We've seen that from comments from Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin in actually the same day as the conversation between Biden and Putin. It certainly appears as if what we're putting on the table is everything but military opportunity, military scenarios. And in all honesty, I would call that likelihood very, less than 1%. But I think that, particularly after our recent experiences in Iraq and Afghanistan, the idea that we would commit large numbers of forces, or that NATO even would, is highly unlikely. But you're pointing to something that's very important. Beyond economic sanctions, what else do we have? And the interesting aspect here is, do we have a cyber response? Is there something we could do preemptively if we see troops starting to move? Is there something we could do against the Putin regime or the Russian military in cyberspace? And that could be a very effective tool. The problem there is we don't know where that ends up. We don't have precedent. We don't have historical case studies to look at for a cyber war. And so I think we would be very reluctant to step into that space, despite the fact that it could be the most effective alternative.
Yeah, you wouldn't have to send troops if you're going through cyberspace here. But in the meantime, though, more realistically, perhaps what's being discussed publicly are those economic sanctions or potentially some other economic measures. What about Nord Stream 2, right? These pipelines, is that also an option? Could that be on the table?
Yeah, I think they've already walked that dog back. And from the administration's perspective, they've already put it on the table as a possibility. So it's important that you raise that point. There have been conversations between the U.S. and Germany, because Germany would play a key role in that. Now, remember, Angela Merkel is out. I mean, she's essentially pretty much done. So we're dealing with a new German administration. And, it's not clear where they would go with this. we have a real problem because NATO, Europe, deals with Russia a great deal more than we do. And so their self-interest, whether we're talking about Germany or any other country in that region, their self-interest as a nation is different than ours. And so this is an incredibly complex, problem as we're discussing.
Yeah.
And so whether it's the idea that, look, we can't tell the Ukraine whether they're going to join NATO or not. It's self-determination. We can't tell Putin, in a sense, don't put your troops somewhere inside your own borders. And we don't want to get involved in a military conflict. Mm-hmm. So when you start mapping this out, this is probably one of the most complex foreign policy concerns that has landed on a president's desk in decades.
Yeah, a major foreign policy challenge and test for President Biden as he's in the office. All right, Mike Baker, thank you very much for weighing in. We appreciate all your insight on this topic.
Sure. Thank you. Take care.
Hey, I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please join the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, too. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to breaking news. And remember, there's a whole lot more on Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news network. Newsmax TV, where real news for real people.